singing country music. That's what I've always dreamt of doing as a young boy. Growing up in South Carolina, it was out of the ordinary to dream such a dream. I moved to Nashville to get a record deal, and I didn't really know what I was doing. My faith was really tested. I wrote this song called Long Black Train. When I laid the pen down, I said, nobody's ever going to want to hear this.
In Fairfield County, something new comes across my desk every day. Crimes are committed, cases are solved, and a community is made safe by the hardworking employees of the Fairfield County Sheriff's Office. Welcome to This Week with Sheriff Dave Phelan, a weekly program here on LSN Television. We're also carried by a number of the radio affiliates here in Lancaster and beyond. Do appreciate you, the viewers and listeners that join us each and every week. This is actually taped at Fairfield Christian Academy. Appreciate the students here, and our executive producer, Kelly Roberts, gets the guests together, questions, and does a terrific job behind the scenes. We have a great guest for the next couple weeks, Dave Landefeld. Welcome.
Thank you, Sheriff.
And we've got some similarities because we went to the same high school.
Yeah, I was a lowly sophomore when you were a senior there, so I don't think...
I wouldn't speak to you then.
I think that's correct, and so I don't know that our paths ever crossed.
I don't remember that,
Yeah, you graduated in 67.
67,
and I
right.
graduated in 69, so I know we were there at the same time, but...
And then Greg Marks, who's the current prosecutor, was there?
Correct. He wasn't there when I was there. As I said, I graduated in 69. He came in the fall of 69 and then graduated 3 years later from Eastmore. So yeah, it's interesting that so many Columbusites have come down to Fairfield County, but yeah, I can understand why.
And, and not only that's interesting, but all the Daves. Because, we had Dave Trimmer, Dave Landefeld, Dave Bailey, Dave Levesey, Dave Phelan, and so good
popular name back in the 50s.
Good biblical name.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we've got some good news because you are going to be the next municipal court judge coming up in the first of the year.
That's correct. January 1st of 2016, I'll begin a 6-year term as Fairfield County Municipal Court Judge. It's going to be a real challenge, I know. I've been retired as prosecuting attorney for 4 years now.
Boy, that's hard to believe.
It is.
Wow.
My last day was April 30th of 2011. So since that time, I've been of counsel with the law firm of Crab, Brown and James. It's been a wonderful experience. But I am looking forward to the challenge, and I understand we'll be talking about that maybe in next week's show. Right.
So that is encouraging. Well, before we get started and talking a little bit about, you spent almost 30 years as the prosecutor in Fairfield County. Tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, as you know, I did graduate from Eastmore High School in Columbus. From there, I spent 4 years at Kenyon College up in beautiful Gambier, Ohio, and when I graduated from there, I ended up going to the Ohio State University College of Law. That's before it was called Moritz College of Law, and graduated from there in 1976. And
okay.
In 1976 was the year moved to Lancaster and started a law firm. Well, I hung out a shingle basically with Jim Stevenson, as his wife, Lynn Stevenson, was my 9th grade English teacher. I was in one of the first classes she ever had. This was at Johnson Park Junior High School.
Okay.
So that was one of the reasons we moved down here, and I was very fortunate in 1980, Jim Luce was the prosecuting attorney at the time, and he was looking for an assistant prosecuting attorney. So it was December 15th of 1980, I joined the prosecutor's office, and in January of 1983 is when I became the prosecuting attorney. Jim Luce had gone on to replace Joe Clark as municipal court judge. At the time, it was the Lancaster Municipal Court, not the Fairfield County Municipal Court, and I was fortunate enough to be appointed as the prosecuting attorney.
And all those years later, you were there almost 30 years?
I was in the office for a little over 30 years, and
Okay.
I was the prosecuting attorney for a little over 28 years. So, I spent a pretty good sentence there as far as being the prosecuting attorney, and that was a wonderful event. I had a great career there, met so many wonderful people in law enforcement, in the courts, and of course dealing with the issues of victims and having to prosecute criminals in my job was it was really fascinating over the years.
Yeah, I bet. What's the biggest change, Dave, that you saw during those 30 years, as far as thinking back, 1980, that time period, as opposed to when you left, as far as what you saw?
Well, the one thing I would say is we always call it the CSI Effect. Back in the 80s, look, we didn't use DNA. The first DNA case that we used was, I believe, in 1989. So it started to be used forensically in, I think, around 1987. We had a case in 1989. I believe it was a rape case, as a matter of fact. And that was the beginning of it. And as you know, the media have talked a lot about all the forensic advancements through the years, and I would say that's been the biggest change. The juries are expecting, they don't expect just fingerprints. And if you have a confession, if somebody's actually confessed to the crime and you have other evidence, they still want to see, well, where's the DNA? Where's
Right.
all this technological magic that's out there, and why didn't you do it? You have to explain why you didn't do something now. Before, you couldn't have done it anyway. So it's been a huge change, and I think juries have become more sophisticated in that regard in the criminal areas.
Yeah, I'll have to agree with you as far as the sophistication. I often have watched some of the national television shows, crime shows, 48 Hours or Dateline, and it's amazing to me when I watch this how much information that people involved in crime would know today. As far as some of the connections between the cell phone, some of the connections with the DNA, some of the things to avoid.
Well, and the video cameras are everywhere now. They're ubiquitous. You go any place you go, you'll see video cameras. So now you see criminals who are not only wearing gloves so they don't leave fingerprints, but they have some type of mask. I think recently I saw one where some fellow wore a McDonald's bag with holes cut out for the eyes so that he wouldn't be recognized by a camera.
Right.
Now, what they didn't realize was that his DNA was on
all over the bag, right?
Yeah, but there's a level of sophistication now, even among those who are breaking the law and trying not to get caught.
Right. So it's got to be exciting. Did you ever think you were, when you were a prosecutor, that you may want to be a judge someday, or did that just happen later on here?
That's happened later on. My dad, I can still remember this. My dad asked me, "Well, what are you going to do with your life?" And I said, "I think I'll be a judge, Dad." Well, the reason I never, before now, even thought about it was in 1989. Prosecutors the elected prosecutors in counties this size got the option to be either full-time or part-time. And before that, I'd been a part-time prosecuting attorney and was paid accordingly. It was really a big hassle to have both a private practice and to be the elected prosecuting attorney. When we got that option in 1989, that's when I went full-time. Mm-hmm. And the reality of it always was that I didn't make that much less than a judge as prosecuting attorney, and I thought it was a much better job. It was a lot more fun.
More interesting, yeah.
Right, more freedom, more interesting. I didn't have somebody telling me when I had to be sitting on the bench and doing certain things. I could pretty much set my own schedule if I wanted to, but I liked being in court. I was in court a lot, so that worked out really well for me, and after that I just never had the desire to do it. But after 4 years, it's a little bit of it's a challenge, and I'm looking forward to that challenge.
Well, you have a lot of familiarity with the way the system works. Of course, you dealt primarily with common pleas.
That's correct. The prosecuting attorney's office deals with felony, the more serious cases where people end up in prison. But in addition, there's all juvenile cases are handled by the prosecuting attorney's office. So there's work in juvenile court, and the office also represents all the elected officials. You're represented by Greg Marks in civil matters,
right.
As are all the elected officials. And there are 13 townships, as you know, here in Fairfield County. All of the townships are represented by the prosecuting attorney's office. I think Violet still is. I haven't talked to them, but they wouldn't have to be because of the home rule.
Right.
They're large enough. That's one of the townships that's large enough that it could actually hire its own counsel if it wanted to.
Now, have you had some input as far as the new court building that's going to be built?
Absolutely, positively no.
Okay.
I haven't seen the blueprints. I haven't been in it. I understand. I walk by it every day on the way to my office, so I know it's progressing. I've heard that we're supposed to be able to move in there maybe in late September or October.
Well, I guess I didn't know it was that soon. Wow.
I don't think it's going to be that soon. I'm just hoping it's going to be before January 1st or by January 1st of next year. There's quite a bit of work to be done in there, as I can see.
It's been, I don't know, a couple of months ago, I was walking down Main Street and they had one of the doors open.
Right.
And so I kind of peeked in there.
Sure.
I'm like you, it looks like it's a massive undertaking.
Sure.
Look in there.
Yeah, it's a big undertaking, and the municipal court is the primary funding source for that renovation, and it's a good use of that building. I mean, it's in the heart of downtown. It'll be really convenient for the public to come there, and there will be ample parking behind the building. So it will be a nice change from where the court has been in City Hall. And I know you may remember when the library was in City Hall. That might have been before your time.
I think it was before my time. Yeah.
But the library was in City Hall before that building was built in the early 80s, and then the clerk's office has been in this space of the old library since then. Frankly, we've outgrown that facility, and it's just not, security-wise, it's not a good setup. It's not good for the judges who have to use public restrooms and actually interact with people they may be sending to jail that very day or sent to jail the day before.
It can be a little uncomfortable.
It can be very uncomfortable when you're looking over your shoulder, all the time. So, yeah.
So, as you get ready to back from private practice into the next municipal court judge, exciting times. I'd like to have you back next week, and I think it's going to be really a fun show, and talk about some of the more interesting cases that you prosecuted during the 30-plus years. And we talked a few before airtime, but it's kind of fascinating. I think the viewers and listeners will be surprised. It's not always the big homicides that really you remember.
No, not all. That's not all the cases I remember. As I was telling you before, I don't ordinarily remember all the names. I don't remember the dates. I can remember some of the facts, and that's about it. When you have so many of them, and it was interesting, a number of years ago, some fellow came up to me and said, "Mr. Landefeld, do you remember me?" And it was, I had to say, "I'm sorry, partner, I don't remember you. If you'd done something really bad, I would have remembered. I would have remembered you. So you didn't do anything really too bad." And he said, "Well, you prosecuted me, and actually it was the best thing that ever happened to me." And that was something that was kind of uplifting.
We're just about out of time. Do appreciate Dave Landefeld, next municipal court judge here in Fairfield County. Do appreciate you, the viewers and listeners, the students here at Fairfield Christian Academy, Kelly Roberts behind the scene. Until next week, same time, same place, Dave will be joining us again to talk about interesting cases here in the last 30 years in Fairfield County. We'll see you next week.
Posting isn't private. Beware what you share.